natural continuation. But just for your understanding, if black does capture the knight on c3, white simply recaptures. At that point, you can already see how far ahead white is in development, with more control over open lines and diagonals, giving a clear initiative in the game. For example, if black tries to defend the pawn on a 5 by playing pawn to d6, then white can respond with knight to g5. At that point, black is already in serious trouble due to a double threat against the f7 square, something that's very hard to defend against. This shows how dangerous this line can become for black very quickly. But let's take a step back to the actual game we're analyzing. In this case, black chose not to go down that line. Instead, he opted for an aggressive approach of his own. Rather than letting white take over the attack, black sacrificed the knight on f2. This gave him 2 pawns and some attacking chances against white's now exposed king. At this stage, black had 2 strong central pawns in exchange for the lost knight, and white's king was under pressure. White responded with pawn to d4, trying to block the diagonal and slow down the attack. Black captured the pawn, and it seemed like he was baiting white into recapturing. Why? Because if white took the pawn back, black had prepared queen to f6, attacking both the king and the knight at once. In that line, white would have been in serious danger, and black would likely be winning. That's what black was counting on. But white saw through the trap and didn't take the pawn. Let's rewind a move again. Rather than falling for the bait, white played rook to e1, giving a check. Black moved the king to f8. Even then, instead of going after the pawn on d4, white played knight to a4, an aggressive and active move, and that's something you'll notice often when playing in a gambit or attacking style. You typically don't want to slow down. You want to keep applying pressure and stay on the offensive as much as possible. The key in attacking positions is to never give your opponent time to regroup or consolidate. In this game, black played bishop to b6, trying to stabilize the position, but white responded with a very sneaky move, queen to d3. At first glance, it might seem like white was simply worried about a possible discovered check if black pushes the pawn and opens the diagonal for the bishop to attack the king. Black likely assumed this was the case and tried to take advantage by playing what looked like a strong reply, preparing to push the pawn forward. But in doing so, black actually fell into a hidden trap. White then played pawn to d5. It seemed like black was about to win material, threatening to capture one of white's minor pieces, and the situation looked pretty bad for white. But this is where things took a dramatic turn. White launched a brilliant combination, starting with queen to a 3-check. After the king moved to g8, white captured the pawn on d5, seemingly sacrificing the bishop. At first glance, it looked like white was just trying to get some material back before losing one of his pieces. Black accepted the sacrifice and captured the bishop, but now it was time for white's attack to explode. White played knight to f6 check, forcing the king into a tight spot. Then came queen to f8, another stunning